What's good, everyone? Coming back at you again with another special broadcast. Today, I have my comrade Yafel Balagoon on, and today we're gonna be talking about the life and legacy of Fahim Minkah, one of the members of the original Black Panther Party in Dallas. But he was so much more than that. So I know Yafel, he knew Mr. Minkah very well. He definitely was around him a lot later on in his life. So that's why we had Yafel on today to talk about that. But before we jump into it, hey guys, just please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel Black Empowerment Movement. So without further ado, Yafel, what's good?
How you doing? How you doing this evening?
Oh man, doing pretty good. I'm glad you was able to jump on today. We're gonna have you, just break it down. Talk about how Mr. Minkah got started with the movement in Dallas, and basically you can pick up wherever you want to pick up with where he got started with that in Dallas.
Okay. First and foremost, let me state that some of the information that I may say may be off a bit because I do want to share that a lot of this information I got from Mr. Minkah directly and also his comrades secondarily. So I just wanted to kind of express that. Be patient with me as far as my timeline, but I can definitely tell you that Fahim Jabari Minkah was an organizer here in the city of Dallas and had been so for many years. I think first and foremost, dealing with the OK Supermarket was probably one of the biggest highlights of his organizing experience. And the OK Supermarket was a major protest. It was a chain of about 10 to 15 supermarkets all across the city, particularly in the African American community, that he joined as he was a part of SNCC at that particular time, which was one of the largest student organizations here in the city.
Oh wow, okay. So let's jump into it because me personally, I don't have any information what happened with the OK Supermarket. What was that about?
The OK Supermarket was about a protest that took place. It was a people's protest. People all across the city had got involved, especially here in the African American community. And what it was related to is something that we actually deal with today. It was dealing with the quality of product that existed for as meats, for as fruit, vegetables, these sort of things. So our grandmothers had got tired of going to OK Supermarket and seeing this low grade type of food and basically paying the highest price for the food. So there were many townhouses, as Mr. Ernest McMillan would say, there were many town hall meetings that took place at that time discussing this issue. And what came from those town hall meetings was we're going to start protesting against OK Supermarket. And that's basically what happened.
Wow. Now, do you have idea of what time frame was this?
1968.
Oh wow. Okay. So around at that time frame, he was not part of the Panthers yet, correct?
No, he was part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which many different organizers in the city basically come from that organization. So
Okay.
I'm talking about Charles Beasley. I'm talking about Ernest McMillan. Talking about Reverend Leroy Haynes. These individuals who later were instrumental in developing the Dallas chapter of the Black Panther Party, verse came from SNCC.
Okay. That makes sense now. A lot of I know you threw a lot of names, so I really hope people would do due diligence and maybe go research some of those names because those were like some of the foundation of some of the members of the Black Panther Party in Dallas. But those people are some very influential names that you just named. So from the OK market, then where did he transition it into?
Well, so what came of the OK Supermarket was a demonstration that they were very successful in doing. So ultimately, they were able to shut down the OK Supermarket out across the city. Now, that goal was essentially to get African American men and women, etc., to become owners of the OK Supermarket. So that was part of the negotiation process, or what the demonstration was. So not only were they demonstrating because of the quality level of food, but additionally, they were saying that we want ownership in this business, because this is something that our community has come to depend upon. And so that's very important to mention. And they were successful in their demonstrations or protest, if you will. And that shows that that particular instance, that protest was very successful. Um, aside from that, I think the interesting thing from Mr. Minkah's perspective was two things. One, he was a student organizer, and he protested against racism that existed at what is now referred to, I think it's University of Texas at Arlington. He demonstrated against the racism that existed there at that particular time, and it was because Confederate flags and just kind of what the representation was. To, I think at that time it was 8,000 students that were active, and I believe probably less than 400 African American or brown people at that particular time that was at the school. And so he basically he wanted some fairness as far as the treatment between the students, and also they wanted representation. And ultimately, you understand, across the broad spectrum of the movement at that particular time was protesting because they wanted inclusion at that particular time, and they wanted representation. Representation meaning they wanted faculty to look like them, and they wanted the curriculum to be something that they can also relate to. And this is very important as we move forward. Now we have more scholars within our community. Well, they first got started because of these types of protests, as I mentioned, Mr. Minkah participated in and developed, was, trying to get some representation. So that's a very important fact to mention as well.
Oh wow! It was just to know that they was doing all of this back then, and then the things that they was fighting for. It's unfortunately, I guess, to say that a lot of the stuff still going on today, and some of those fights still need to be continued today. So basically, at that time frame, he was a student organizer in the early days at UTA. Wow, that's a piece of history a lot of people may or may not even know about regarding Mr. Minkah.
Yeah, and as being in the Air Force as well, being a serviceman, he often mentioned that that was one of the first places that he actually saw it. So if he say, at what point was he an organizer, he would tell you he's probably been one all his life. He would probably tell you been one all his life, because he was talking about the times when he was a kid and how he had to deal with certain things. Keep in mind, he's from Marshall, Texas. I believe his family's from Marshall, Texas, and that side of Texas, it has very strong African American lineage. Very proud people that come from Marshall, Texas, that's where he's been from, and so that obviously, you know, had an influence. Marshall, Texas, people own things, and so when you come from that type of experience where people actually own things, when you a child and you see these things, it make you a very proud and upstanding type of individual. To whereas can't nobody just kind of just tell you anything, for lack of a better term. And so this was the type of person that he was, and understanding of that's what sort of influenced him. And I've heard him mention it, and I believe that that's something that very much so impacted the person he became to be.
Wow. Yeah, and that's crazy. Like the stuff you mentioned, I never heard of before. That's pretty powerful. So during that time, he was a student at UTA.
Yeah, he was a student. I know that he had aspirations at one time to become a lawyer, and so just as many of us who seek to bring about justice in the community, obviously that was something that he wanted as well. And the interesting thing is that he said something that always pulled on him, or he referred to it as a tangent. He defined the movement as a tangent, something that always pulled on him and made him go a certain way, a certain influence, if you will. And so that's something that I think all of us now can deal with in many different ways. Even like this platform here for Black Empowerment Movement. This is a way to get the information out, to educate. We always wanted to educate people in different ways, and this is like an excellent way to do it as it relates to Black empowerment and making sure people are informed on a number of different subjects. It's a tangent. It's something that's in you. It's something that's always going to be in you. And so even as a older man, and I'm speaking even older than myself now, he was still active in many ways in educating. This is how ultimately, I'm getting off a little bit, but this is how ultimately he became a track coach. And he spent many years in doing that. It was a way of giving back. It was that tangent that he was speaking of, that something that I always pulled him. But I think that it first probably started in Marshall, Texas, and it ultimately went as he became a student in college, and his experiences as being a serviceman. And SNCC was an example of that. And even starting the Black Panther Party here in the city of Dallas in 1973, just all of that was that tangent, but it became ultimately who he was, and that's kind of why we're here today.
Man, okay. So now during this time he was a student. Now, did he like after he transitioned, did he go into some type of other field after college or?
Well, ultimately, he was an auto mechanic. He started as working with someone at their shop, and as he was able to get things together, he had his own shop, his own location, primarily servicing the people in the Singing Hills, Highland Hills area.
So,
And
so he left college and started working as a mechanic.
yeah, later, a little later, but I'm just kind of speaking about his primary focus and occupation, and one of his passions was fixing things. One of his passions was trying to figure out why things are broken. Just like as we was talking about his tangent about the system, why the system is broken, he had that same passion as an auto mechanic, and he desired to do that because he saw that was something that we needed to have as a community, with someone that they can count on that can fix their cars. Because why?
Yeah.
Because the vehicle is the second most important purchase that we'll ever make other than a house. And so he said he was going to focus on vehicles. That's something that everybody needs, and that was going to be something that he left over and be a part of for the community.
Yeah. So what did he do after college?
Um, so he formed an organization called the Angela Davis Liberation Party. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, and so that was something that he had initially developed because of his uh, desire to assist Angela Davis in her yearning to be free. And as
Mm-hmm.
if your listeners know about what occurred with Angela Davis, when ultimately she was arrested as it relates to the Jonathan Jackson, George Jackson situation, if you will. And
Mm-hmm.
so many people across the country at that particular time, not only here in Dallas, but most major cities across America, was advocating for Angela Davis to be free because they felt at that particular time that was something that she shouldn't be in prison for. And so he was one of those individuals. He developed the Angela Davis Liberation Party, and I believe he had, I think he said it himself, close to 60 members, or a number of different members that were actively engaged in
Mm.
organizing the community at that particular time.
Oh wow. So he organized this when Angela Davis was locked up, correct?
Correct. Yep. Angela Davis
Oh.
Liberation Party. Yeah.
So when, because we know eventually she did get out, did the party just disbanded or they kept it going? What happened after she got out of jail?
Uh, as far as um, as far as Mr. Minkah is concerned, he later on went to the party, or to the Black Panther Party.
Oh,
At
okay, okay.
that particular time, he went to California with Khalif Hassan, who was a very formidable, well-known organizer here in the city of Dallas, who was also a part of the Black Panther Party. Khalif Hassan, he went to California and met with leadership there, and of course, at that particular time, was appointed the coordinator of the party. And predominantly, his organizing was done at that particular time in West Dallas. in the housing project area. Members of the party moved into the community, just like Black Empowerment or any other organization has done, being very much so entrenched, going to where the community actually is at. And so that was their philosophy as well. Keep in mind, with respects to the party, the Black Panther Party, and the National Committee to Combat Fascism that had gotten started a little bit earlier. I don't want to not mention them. Some very well-known individuals is Mr. Skip Shockley, Leroy Haynes, Akintunde Fonzo. They were organizing in Denton at a location called Dreamland, and that was another apartment complex. And so when you look at it in context of what Black Empowerment was able to do, what Guerrilla Mainframe was able to do, we were being entrenched in the community, but we was also doing something that we didn't necessarily probably know at that particular time. That's something that they was doing as well. And so we've always looked at these concepts of big organizations and having all these people coming to us, when in actuality, they was organizing but going to the community. And 25 and 30 years later, organizations like Black Empowerment and the Guerrilla Mainframe was doing what? We were doing the same thing. We were organizing in Highland Hills. We was organizing in Stop 6. Same exact thing. Unbeknownst to us, we were more or less repeating some of the history that had been done prior.
Wow. And let's watch a short clip of him talking about that. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Undercover agents that you were aware of at that time in the Black Panther Party?
No, whenever I got suspect, I kick almost everybody out. Yeah. and bring people, watch them and bring people back in. But we were the last chapter admitted into the party because the party was being so heavily infiltrated. Yeah. And I felt real good. That's how the party trusted me. Yeah. They had a committee to combat fascism in Dallas before then. Okay. And that's when I organized the Andrew Davis Party rather than join that. Okay. I didn't trust the leadership. It turned out for good reason. And that's where the party disbanded in, turned out to be an agent.
Oh, interesting.
And there was a lot of people around the country being leading groups that were actually police agents.
Black Panther chapters?
Yeah, that's why they chapters and branches, and that's why they shut down some chapters, and that's when they organized people who wanted to work with the party and carry on the party's program. Mm-hmm. The party organized a committee to combat fascism, better known as the NCCF, and there was a probationary period, sort of. You can work with the party, and then the party it's a testing stage for you, you know.
The chapter here.
Curtis Gaines was over it.
Okay. I've heard his name come up every now and then.
And I wouldn't, I respected Curtis as a family man, but it's a community organizing now. So for good reason. Yeah.
I want to pause right there real fast, y'all feel. I want to get your take on it. What maybe you know, maybe you don't know. What he meant by he didn't respect him as an organizer.
So Curtis Gaines, he also again come out of SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, locally here in Dallas, and he had created was the initial person that organizes the party here in the city. And ultimately, what came out was there was a situation at his headquarters. He eventually created a nonprofit called Grassroots Incorporated. Let me back up a bit. Prior to that, Geronimo Pratt was coming to the city, and he needed a place to kind of be low key. And so his group at that particular time was a part of that, maybe hiding, and some would say even led to Geronimo Pratt being arrested in the city. That's what some people would say, and they probably are correct. But ultimately what occurred was at the headquarters, which was, I believe, Curtis Gaines' home at that particular time, or that's what they were using. There was a raid by the Dallas Police Department, and one member, they call Red Dog or Don Lister, had a situation with the police, but ultimately he ended up serving time. I believe they gave him like 8 or 10 years, etc. But there was a raid, and during that raid, and which ultimately led to the trial of Red Dog or Donald Lister, which led to the trial, it was come out through reading the evidence, because there's also a discovery that takes place in every trial. There is a discovery that takes place. So folks have an opportunity to read what the prosecution is bringing forth as part of their case. They were able to read it, and it comes out that Curtis Gaines was actually an informant and an agent who was an agent provocateur attempting to get members of the party at that particular time get them arrested, detained, or he was attempting to flip them and also be an agent as well. And so that's why you had this situation, which I think ultimately led to the arrest of Geronimo Pratt. But that's what came out. Curtis Gaines was an informant or an agent, and that's what initially was.
Oh wow! Oh wow! I had. Is this Curtis Gaines person still alive?
No, Curtis Gaines is deceased.
Oh, when did he pass?
I don't know the exact year, and I've also asked that question. And what I've been advised is he had transitioned or passed away in the 80s. What I've been told. But one of the things that we want to be able to do now that we're kind of discussing it is documenting this information. Chairman Eric of Gorilla Mainframe and Robert Taylor of Gorilla Mainframe wanted to try to get some of this information documented, so that we can really tell the story of what happened in Dallas, in particular the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Wow.
We think it's very important because as I just went to a meeting with the elders in the community, and one of the common misconceptions is that some people say there wasn't a movement that existed in Dallas. And obviously, we have to be the ones that try to tell this story. And that's the important part of this park situation. Because the park situation creates, it makes folks have to tell the story. So, yes, our efforts is to change College Park, which is in Highland Hills, a place that Mr. Fahim Minkah was at. He lived at, worked at, organized in Prince Hall at, a number of different patrols, African American men against narcotics. This is why that park that we're advocating for it to change, with these 600 individuals to sign in the city. That's why it's important that we continue to strive to do that.
Oh wow! And let's finish the video. Wow, that's crazy information.
So the Texas chapter actually became the Texas state chapter.
Okay.
I mean the Dallas chapter. Yeah, they pulled up the Houston chapter and then put me over the whole state.
Okay.
Logistic wise, I wasn't really able to handle it too well, but I was a leading party member in the state at the time I resigned from the party.
When was that?
The party wanted me to come out to Oakland, pull up here and come out to Oakland.
Okay.
And they were taking chapters from different places and bringing the heads up to Oakland to show up leadership. And I disagree with that policy. I thought that they should be training people and dispatching them to this part of the country, Southwest and South. And rather than pulling up chapters.
Yeah.
And so I wrote my letter to them. I resigned with honor.
Do you remember what year?
I was 78.
Okay. So you were in the party about 5 or 6 years.
So we can take that last little piece was some good information too. So he's basically saying that at that time, they want to pull up all the chapters and have them come to Oakland. That's interesting. Very interesting.
The elders, most of the elders in the Houston chapter, some of those are alive now, and hopefully, if we're able to change the park name to Fahim J. Minkah Community Park, they will be there as well. Hopefully, a lot of them in Houston were a part of that migration, if you will, to Oakland. And at that particular time, I think that the party was trying to figure out how to keep leadership on the local level and also build strength in Oakland to become influential. You look at the Black Panther Party at that particular time, they actually had a member who eventually became the mayor of the city. And so it was those efforts bringing everyone back to Oakland from all chapters that was willing to come back. Of course, Mr. Fahim J. Minkah didn't agree to do it, but I think those are some of the successes of what may have come from it, getting everybody returned back to Oakland.
Oh wow! And overall, he did not agree with that. He was like, I turn in my walking papers.
Right.
Oh man! All right, so now we at the point where he did his part in the movement with the Panthers. Now he transitioned to something else, and I think this is probably his probably his biggest moment, his highlight of his time with being a Vanguard. Let's jump into that.
Okay. I think it's important to mention that during this time that he was a family man to a number of children that he does have, and he's always been taking care of his family. And so, from my understanding, at that particular point in his time, he refocused himself in doing that, taking care of his family, making sure that he was where he needed to be an example to his kids and things of that nature, his wife and things of that nature. That's very important to mention because that's something that we all have to strive to do. Now, granted, we all have our own contradictions, and we try to work through those contradictions to become a better person. I think everyone strives to do that. But I just wanted to mention that through all of this, he had been an excellent family man. His mother don't stay too far from the location that she didn't stay too far from the location we're trying to change the park name to. So it's a very interesting local story.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. Wow. Yeah, that's important to know. He's a little bit I do know about him, and when I met him and knew some of his kids, that they talked about how he was a family man and how big of a protector he was during that time frame. Uh, and then aside being a family man, like did he do anything else in the movement in Dallas, or he just resided to being a family man?
In 1987, he created an organization called African American Men Against Narcotics. You have to understand at that particular time, Reagan being the president, Nancy being his wife, just the politics of the community at that particular time, even versus now. At that particular time, they was big against drugs, saying no, um, trying to push drug dealers out of the community, that sort of thing. That's what the politics of at that was at that particular time. So he created this organization called African American Men Against Narcotics, which is designed to basically fight the crack epidemic, but also push out one of their biggest adversaries at that particular time was Jamaican Posse. And if you know anything about the Jamaican Posse or the Shower Posse, as they are known, set up local organizations, local groups across the country in different cities across America, and basically were just peddling drugs to the community, the African American community especially, but anybody, and just really destroying the fabric of the community at that time. And so he created this organization to combat that. And initially, they were organizing in South Dallas in the Jeffrey Myers section. Initially, that's kind of where their base was at that particular time, and they was pushing out again Jamaican Shower Posse and those other elements.
Wow. So what was the results of all of that, the organizing to go against that particular organization that was peddling drugs? What happened?
So they were able to organize successfully in South Dallas in the Jeffrey Myers section, and then after that he decided to come to Ledbetter, Bonneview, Prince Hall area, and decided to set up base there, and which was not too far from where he lived at the time. And so that's an important to mention. As an organizer, he was organizing in sections where he was from, where he actually lived in. So he knew people. So anytime you want to organize, just try to organize for people outside your group. That's basically what he was doing at that particular time, was setting up shop in Prince Hall and basically doing what we refer to now as armed patrols. Some of the first armed patrols in the city. Um, I know a lot of people now currently talk about the Second Amendment as being something that they like to maintain. Will understand that African American Men Against Narcotics was the first group in the city of Dallas that kind of took that position, and primarily it was based upon them having to deal with armed drug dealer, armed drug factions. They wanted to make sure they were able to protect themselves and ensure that everybody went home safely after these drug patrols.
So was it legal to open carry or concealed carry in Texas at that time? Or
yes, it was very legal to open carry in the state of Texas at that particular time, and that's what ultimately now obviously because of groups like Black Empowerment, etc., groups like that have created a situation where people have become more educated. Now they know that we can have a legal right so long as, for the most part, you don't have a felony. You can open carry, but they were doing this back in the 80s, which is something that we have to mention just to kind of get the understanding of it, the complexities of it, that they were openly carrying arms, but they were responsible. Mr. Minkah was responsible about doing it, and more so than just that, you have to understand, not only did he do that, but he was also a community-based organizer, which means that he was putting on programs. I've heard his daughters mention about a bike program that he had, where he would actually get the neighborhood children and ride bikes, and he would do this on a consistent basis because this was something that he actually loved to do. He loved to ride bikes and fix bikes. Again, on back to this tangent that he was speaking about, this is something that he did do with African American Men Against Narcotics.
So they were successful at moving this Jamaican drug cartel out of South Dallas.
Right, they were successful with moving the Jamaican drug cartel out of South Dallas, and equally so when you look at the African American Men Against Narcotics, and you look at which he called the United Front, and which I've heard Mr. Beasley refer to as not United Front, was very successful. And I say that because they had built a community-based institution, Southern Skates. And Southern Skates is something that is actually still there now. So when you judge a person about their level of commitment and organization, look after this man has passed away, I believe February 15, 2018, he passed away, a transition, and you look at something that he created is still here. I had the opportunity just recently to go inside Southern Skates and kind of look around and just see how it is, and it's a beautiful sight. Where keep in mind, when he first surveyed that land, there was nothing there. There was nothing. There was basically a vacant lot that he had to kind of fix and kind of had to try to figure things out. And then, even related to Southern Skates, he never operated that type of business before, so he had to go get the education to figure out, okay, how do you run a skating rink? So he had to take the time out to figure these things out. And so I say it was a success because for that particular community, that institution is still there. And I had the opportunity. I've been out getting signatures. Me and the committee have been out getting signatures. And that's one of the things that we talk about the most is that skating rink. And there's people in the community that actively, continuously, and consistently go to that skating rink. So much so that the revenue that is generated for the city has been over $1 million annually. And this is something that he created. The city operates it now. They were able to operate it now, but this is something that he created, institution that he developed.
Wow. So let's talk about the renaming of the park. Let's get into that. So we talked about all Mr. Minkah accomplishments. Now, what, in your opinion, why is it so important to rename this park? I know you touched on it a little bit earlier. But let's get into it in depth.
I think it's important for those of us who are actively engaged currently in this current movement, whether it be Black empowerment, Gorilla Mainframe, community movement builders, those of us that are actively engaged, I think that he left something for us to consider. So I think the best consideration that we can do, or the best thing that we can do, is help continue the legacy. And I want to create some situations where many generations from now that they can somebody can pass by, a young person can pass by that park and say, why does that park call that name Fahim Minkah? Then they'll go to whatever Google or search engine, whatever thing they can look up and try to get information, and then they'll learn about some of the things that he was a part of. I think that's important. I think it's important because in this tangent that he spoke about, he gave his life, even up until the last day of his life when he was out there coaching, coaching track as he did oftentimes. And that was something that he was very proud that he did. Mind you, that was one of the first ways that I actually interacted with him as an elementary school kid at that particular time, because I went to Adele Turner, and many of his children with Adele Turner. That's how I first interacted with him as a track coach for Hershey. And so this was something that he did often, every day. And I hope that the people that live here in Highland Hills, and I hope that people that live across the city can support this effort and change the name from College Park as it is now to Fahim J. Minkah Community Park, because it's something that's important. Not only was he a family man, not only was he an educated man, but he was also someone that stood against the drugs and everything that happens negative in our community. This is something that he has consistently stood up for all of his life, from that child in Marshall, Texas, who was a very strong-willed child, up until the point of him being a 79-year-old man and a track coach, being a track coach given to the community. This is something that he did every day.
Wow. Man, that's important. Like when we talk about legacy and definitely giving honor to our elders and people that transcend and part of the ancestral realm now. Hey, this is important, but like you said, kids gonna say, hey, why this park is named this, with the advent of technology, they can Google that name and look up to see the work he actually did in that part, in that neighborhood, so that's important. So you have anybody that's working with you with like, what are some things you're doing to get the name change? What are some things you're doing now, and who's helping you do that?
We created the Friends and Family of Fahim J. Minkah as an organizational vehicle. And we did that to give everyone an opportunity to participate. So of course, we got full family support, that's very important. That's important to mention. And actuality, myself, Marcus Russell, Devontae Peters, Eric Cafe Balagoon, even Robert Taylor, and others are in support. And there's a number of other different people that's participating in this process. Mr. Funzo is definitely helping. That was one of his comrades. Mr. Charles Beasley is very influential in this as well. Another one of his closest comrades in supporting. And also, I couldn't fail to mention the man that's oftentimes in my ear on a number of different things is Marvin Crenshaw. So basically what's occurred is these elders have expressed to us, and I'm speaking not just myself but others, the importance of legacy, and they have gotten in our ear and they've talked to us about it, and they said, go ahead and do it. And that's important. And of course, with the family support and agreement, let's go ahead and do it. And so it appears now that it relates to the park situation, we have a ton of support. And so we've been going out, getting signatures every day or every other day, just trying to meet our mark and meet the goal that we need to change the name of the park, which is very important. Ultimately, I know that we will reach the mark. And so from what I hear from park administration here in the city, that there is some support on the park board. And so if there's support in the community and there's support on the park board, there's an opportunity to actually legitimately change the name of the park. Keep in mind, this is something that has come from the community. So this is a very community engaged process. I myself am a current precinct chair here in 3071, which is Highland Hills. So understand this is something that's in the community, that comes from the community. And so I'm happy to partake and play my role, and I'm happy to get others engaged into to do their roles as well. But the most important thing is continuing the legacy, and that's what I hope to do, and I hope others will be willing to do the same.
Already, man, great stuff, man. And before we get out of here, any parting words you would like to, give the people, because you did a great breakdown from beginning to end of the life and legacy of Fahim Minkah. Any parting words you would like to give the people?
Sure. So I just want to give a disclaimer. Of course, I know we have some very intelligent people that may look at this, and so every single detail I may have not got absolutely correct. But I will say I did get majority of the information from him himself, and also some of his comrades. And so I think it's important when we tell his story that we also tell the story, or continue to tell the story of SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and we also tell the story of all the members of the Dallas chapter of the Black Panther Party, whether they came in 1970 or if they participated in West Dallas in 1973. This is very important. And I say that to say, because Akintunde Funzo, who was a part of the initial development that ultimately organized and didn't, has probably gotten more signatures than anybody that I've seen other than myself. And so seeing that, that's important. For me, my family is participating in this process, which is important. And that's something that we have to continue to do. And we hope that we're able to create something that will leave that legacy, and so that it can live on.
Wow. And people that y'all may not know, before the passing and Mr. Minkah transcending, Yafel used to talk to this guy daily. He's not getting this information by somebody else, a third party. Mr. Minkah and Yafel used to talk daily, all the time. He used to go visit Mr. Minkah all the time at his shop. Yafel is getting this from the source itself. All this information is not hearsay. He used to constantly talk to Mr. Minkah every day. Way before his passing, they used to constantly talk all the time. So that's why it's no other person perfect to come on and talk about this and talk about the life and legacy of Mr. Minkah. So I just want to put that out there for people to know, because people don't know that. They be thinking, he don't know what he's talking about. He getting this information from someone else, but no, you got this from the man himself. So that needs to be said. But hey guys, thank you for tuning in. Hey, if you're watching, please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Yeah, subscribe, like, share. We're trying to get these subscribers up, man. Help a brother out. We're trying to get it to 1,000 subscribers. But other than that, guys, hey, I'd like to leave y'all with all power to the people, and we out of here. Peace.
Peace.